Hello and welcome, everyone. It's wonderful to have you here. Thanks for joining us on a Saturday for some awesome learning. And we are excited to get started with our session this afternoon on a self-paced classroom. My name is Jackie Miller, and I am one of the Region 3 Idaho Coaching Network coaches, and I am joined today by the fabulous Katie Woodrick. She's our awesome facilitator who teaches at Hillside Junior High in Boise. She teaches 7th and 8th grade, and she is committed to meeting each student exactly where they are and ensuring that every student can thrive every day. So I'm going to turn it over to Katie, let her share her screen, and she'll take it away.
Thank you, Jackie. Can you guys hear me okay? Yes, yay, okay. I'm going to share my screen. Oh boy, and attempt to do all the things. Hold on one second. Oh, technology, why? There we go. All right. Jackie, can you guys see my screen okay? Awesome. All right. Welcome, guys. This is awesome. This is a great turnout. I really appreciate that this was a session that you thought might be valuable. I definitely think it is. I am Katie Woodrick. I teach 8th grade ELA, 7th grade reading at Hillside Junior High School in the Boise School District. I've been teaching there for my 4th year. And for 2 years now, I've been doing a self-paced classroom. So I want to go over with you guys today the breakdown of what a self-paced classroom is and what it's done for me and my classroom, basically. So let's get started. So basically, the essential question that I have for you guys today is how could a self-paced classroom help teachers make connections with students while maintaining a high level of rigor, because that's always been my struggle. I want to have a rigorous classroom. I want them to be working on really great things and learn a lot, but I also want to know them and connect with them. And then I want them to know me. And it's really hard to do both in a classroom where you're trying to meet standards and you're, trying to get those state testing requirements taken care of. So that's the big thing that I want you guys to take away here is how can we do this, both give rigor and make connections with those students. So today, you educational professionals will hopefully you will get an introduction to the Modern Classrooms Project, which is a nonprofit that I've been working with and learning from in the last couple of years. You guys will review the elements of a self-paced classroom, and we will discuss how a current unit of yours could fit into the self-paced model, because what I'd really hope for you guys is to take away something that you do already and kind of fit it into the model that I'm teaching and going over with you guys today. So to start off, I'll tell you a little bit about me. I've been teaching for 15 years. I moved here from California. I apologize. Don't hate me. But I moved here about 4 years ago, got my position at Hillside. I was a struggling learner back in California when I went to school. I was the kid in the back of the room who would attempt to sleep as much as I could, especially in math classes, but even in English classes. I was not, I spent a lot of time drawing caricatures of my teachers to make my friends laugh, which obviously didn't work out very well for me and the relationship I had with the teacher. I got a lot of D's. I got a couple F's. I went to summer school every summer in high school to try to make that stuff up. I didn't go to college right away. I put a picture of myself up in high school. I think this was my 10th grade year, just so you can, the visual. I was that kid. And you guys all probably know that kid. I look like I'm about to fall asleep in that picture. I was at school, so I probably was. So when I became a teacher, I really wanted to reach those kids like myself that just didn't have just the wherewithal. They just don't have it, and I want to make sure they're getting it, and they're getting it rigorously. And I struggled as a teacher. I have struggled in many ways in my 15 years trying to make that happen, trying to do what, the collaboration model, all different types of models to make sure every kid, EL kids, kids with IEPs, all sorts of kids, high achieving kids, all succeed in my classroom, and that I can reach every kid. So I definitely have fluctuated as a learner and as a teacher. It's all a process of learning for me, and so that gives you a little bit about who I am as a person and a teacher. And that brings me to asking you guys. So for me, my struggle as a teacher has always been to connect with my students, all of them, especially the ones that, you know, were like myself when I was younger, the ones who might have deficiencies in their learning for whatever reason. So I wanted to ask you guys, there is a Jamboard link that I believe Jackie has put up for you guys to look at. What struggles do you face as a teacher? And let's go to the Jamboard here. So the Jamboard, it looks like this. If you have never used Jamboard before, I'd like us to put sticky notes on here. So this is a virtual like poster board. And so if you go to the side here to the left, you will see this little thing that literally looks like a sticky note kind of right in the middle here. If you click on it, it allows you to put a sticky note in. I can see some people doing it. So yeah, just throw out in the sticky note, what are some struggles you face as an educator? I'm going to do one as well right now. Change the color if you would like. Move it around. You can make it bigger or smaller. Awesome. Thank you guys. And if you have any questions on how to do this, I just started using Jamboard this year, obviously. All the new things. Awesome, guys. These are great. These are great struggles because I think we all feel them. Not that I'm not mocking your struggle. I'm saying we are sharing the same. Yeah. Great, guys. Just to wrap this up as we're finishing putting our sticky notes on here. A couple that I've noticed, the lack of resources, trying to find things that will meet the needs of all the kids. I see that. Engagement, connections and engagement. The idea of equity, making sure all the kids have access to the material. Oh, this is great. Making sure the kids are driving and fostering that independence, driving their own education, because that's what's going to get them to connect to the material and want to do it. Accountability with that, great. again, I think if you read over all these guys, we're all in it. We're dealing with all these things. My hope is that some of what I go over today it's not going to fix these issues. It's not going to stop the struggle, but it will maybe put you on the road to lightening the struggle a little bit, trying to understand what is working for you and your students in a classroom using the self-paced model. So again, these are amazing struggles because we are all going through them. So thank you guys for being honest. Okay, let's go back to, oh my goodness, the presentation. So I'm going to introduce you guys to the Modern Classrooms project, which I'll go over how I came about knowing about this project a little over a year ago. This is a very short video that, let me make sure I make sure you guys hear this. Okay, let's.
Hi, Angel. How are you? Good. Nice job, Mr. 6.10.
So one of the toughest challenges students face when they walk into classrooms is they feel tense. They're worried about being put on the spot, especially if they're behind or don't understand a skill. When they come into our classrooms, they know they're picking up where they left off. We're seeing students' anxiety levels drop and their commitment and desire to master content increase.
So I want to shout out Nathaniel and Will. They came on their own time. They got some videos going and they are ahead of pace.
Eastern High School is located in the Capitol Hill neighborhood of Washington, D.C. Being 100% free and reduced lunch, our students come to us with varied levels of academic performance.
When I came to Eastern, I was sort of shocked with how broad the variety of learning levels was. We have students who have experienced a ton of trauma, who are behind on certain skill sets, are ahead in certain skill sets, have different subsets of experience when they go home. I quickly found out that my traditional model of teaching was not actually effective. So at that time, I realized I needed to make a shift, and I wanted to start by getting rid of the lecture at the beginning of my class. I'm gonna get started today with a revision. So Santana and Jamie, just see me in the back real quick. The instructional model that I started implementing, there are 3 components: blended learning, self-paced structure, and mastery-based grading. What you would see today is really a controlled chaos environment. You have some students starting a new lesson, watching an instructional video, taking their guided notes. You have other kids working on actual lesson assignments, collaborating on whiteboards, really problem solving. And then you'll see other students working on exit tickets to achieve mastery.
I like Mr. Furr's class because it teaches you independence. For every lesson, we start off with a video, and then during the video, we have to take notes. Mr. Furr, he does the videos himself. You'll hear his voice every time you watch a video.
In today's lesson, we're going to focus on finding our local maxes and mins.
I love it actually. You get to pause it, stop, and then go back and be able to rewatch the lesson over again until I fully understand and grasp the strategies and formulas.
Once they're done watching that instructional video, they transition to some type of assignment or activity.
That's it for A, right? Mm-hmm. And then we already found the derivative. And now say find the rate of change in the weight of the oil.
Everyone learns different, so you may be on lesson 5, someone may be on 3. It all depends on how you work. It's better than in a regular class where everybody has to stay on the same thing. The students help each other. So if you ahead, you might can help someone that's behind.
Oh, okay, so after you get 9 over 4, you gotta divide the whole thing by 4. Okay, all right.
After that, there's an exit ticket.
So an exit ticket is like a mini quiz. It's just a couple questions at the end of the lesson that really succinctly measure the student's ability to execute the activities they learned. So when a student has mastered an exit ticket, they move forward. When they don't, they have a reteach. You're assuming that your Y is 0. And then they try a new exit ticket until they've achieved mastery.
Showtime. Did you get your exit ticket right? Well, your derivative is spot on.
So because I am not delivering a lecture, I'm now free to work with students for the entirety of the class period.
X equals 4.
Yes. Woo.
Real quick, just remind me, what do you have to argue? who is more responsible for perpetuating the Cold War. I'm gonna meet with a few people on topic sentences first.
The video instruction makes me feel like I've been able to clone myself. Instead of needing to explain a concept and then re-explain the concept and then say it again, I'm giving the instruction on the video, which frees me up to work one-on-one or in small groups. Does your topic sentence directly answer the essay question? No, it doesn't.
I like it a lot. I never feel like I'm being rushed or feel like, oh, I already know this, like why am I going over this again? I always feel like I'm being challenged.
I have a really accurate pulse check of where my students are. So-and-so is on 6.9 and they're about halfway through because I haven't seen an exit ticket yet, whereas another student has advanced to 6.10 and I can even lean on that student to explain something to their peers.
Okay, so you're only going to use 2 quote explication charts, your 2 strongest ones.
I think it helps with your time management. A couple days ago, I had to stay after school to get my work done because I was slacking a little bit. Like when you miss a class, you can watch the video at home to catch up.
Part of the reason this format works so well is we have a lower than average in-seat attendance rate. In a traditional format, once the teacher delivers that lesson, they're moving on to the next lesson the next day, and they don't get an opportunity to go back over it.
I've had students who, sadly, in a traditional classroom, they simply would have failed the quarter due to their number of absences for legitimate reasons and often sometimes really heartbreaking reasons. With this way of teaching, that student can come really with more of a fighting chance and ultimately pass a quarter.
In our model, if a student is experiencing distress and needs emotional support, it doesn't disrupt the larger classroom environment. I'm able to pivot and work with that student, discuss what's going on, while the other students are able to access the content and flourish.
You have to do 10, then put parentheses in the calculator too.
I did.
Oh, you got it. It's supposed to be a positive, girl.
Okay. So this is the Modern Classroom project, guys, and it's a lot. When I first saw this project, there was a lot of things that were very new and interesting and very scary to me. So I wanted to talk through the Jamboard, same Jamboard. What are some elements from the videos from the Modern Classroom that seem new and interesting and even scary for you? Going back to the Jamboard, this is the second slide, if you slide it right over. Again, what is new or interesting or scary or all of the above for you from this video? guys. As we're finishing this up, it's awesome to see, because these are all the same fears and worries and concerns that I had when I started this and still have as I'm implementing it. Finishing my first full year of implementation, obviously through some hybrid learning and some distance learning, face-to-face learning as well. But these concerns were all, these excitements were all the same. Great that a lot of you guys see that the video thing, creating videos for lessons, I just never even thought about it. Obviously before, the pandemic and shutting down, I wouldn't have thought about it. And now that I do it, it's changed everything, doing the video lessons. Although it is scary, and we will talk about that, to try to record yourself and how to do it and how to make it, that perfect lesson if you're going to put it out there as a recording for everybody to see and access numerous times. I see that a lot of you guys are excited about the idea of students who are kind of ahead of pace helping, but also there's a concern there, because what if they don't want to? What if they just want to keep working? What if they're that kind of a student who just wants to focus and work? I get that. Right, it looks like some of you kind of lean this way anyway, and you've kind of started doing it, especially with distance learning. With this year, some of you have already been taping your lessons. Great. Yeah, planning and making the videos again. Someone wrote that they were surprised by how collaborative the classrooms are. I still struggle with that even today. Again, it's my first year doing this. Trying to make sure that there's collaboration going on. I still want my students, I don't want them buried in a Chromebook or their notes or their article or whatever they're doing. I want them collaborating and talking. And that's always still a struggle. Great. All right. Well, what my hope is that I can at least acknowledge some of these fears that you might have, excitements that you might have of this stuff. So if we go back to the presentation, my experience with this, again, this is year 2 of doing it. I started it a little bit last year, but then we went remote, obviously. I was introduced to it by a colleague who we had been doing project-based learning together. She is a history teacher, I'm an English teacher, and at our school, we had done some project-based stuff together, cross-curricular, and she was like, you gotta see this. This is, if we could do this, this would be everything. Because what our ideal is to have a room where it's English and history, and we're doing this, we're co-teaching and doing this all day. Like, it would be so amazing. So I got tuned on to it because I wanted to create that environment. I have a lot of anxiety teaching students day in and day out, lecturing. I realized that's not my jam. It's not what I love doing. I love sitting with them and watching them learn, but I was kind of hindered by teaching. It's a weird thing. Like you expect to be a teacher and you expect to be in front of the classroom teaching them. But as we've seen education shift in the last 15 and 20 years, it's not that. Like, education, the classroom looks different. Those students need to be leading the way rather than the teacher. And I love that, because again, my anxiety level of actually being up there teaching, it was oddly high for a 15-year teacher. So I did the Summer Institute last year. Obviously, I had a little time because of the COVID restrictions. I was at home. It was virtual. I was mentored by one of the Modern Classroom teachers, and I learned how to create the videos. It literally took me for my first video. I probably recorded it, and it was a really simple, 4-minute video. I recorded that video probably 7 times. again, it was my first video. I didn't know how should my voice sound, how fast should I be talking. I kept going back and forth of, it doesn't sound right. And I'd start it and stop it and start it and stop it. So it was a lot. And now I don't even, like, I create a video and it's just like, oh, I blundered for the first 5 minutes. Fine. I'm going to keep going. Like you learn to kind of roll with it and realize that they don't have to be absolutely perfect. You don't have to be perfect in the videos. The content has to be there, and you start to realize how that looks and how it works for you. Yeah, and so I when I rolled out my first unit after the Summer Institute, we were virtual, and I was so excited because I'm like, this is a great practice. But what I noticed is students were missing, like they were literally just not showing up. As you guys probably saw in your own virtual classrooms, if you were virtual at all this year, having students show up to the meets and then do the work was a bear. It was difficult. So it was hard to really pace them because I'm like, I can't really pace you if you're not really here doing this work. So now that since January, I've been fully doing this and been able to actually roll it out as it should roll out. And I'll talk to you guys about that. So this is my 4th unit. Again, first in person. The unit I'm currently doing is the first full in-person unit that I've done with the progress tracker and everything. So, I'll talk about all my blunders and successes with that unit as we go along. Yeah, let's continue to go. This is what my classroom looks like. And again, this is as you can see, it's pre-COVID because there's no masks. But this is what my ideal is students literally, and this is my classroom before, like literally before the pandemic, they were always working together. They were always doing things collaboratively. I have them seated in groups. Again, it's very difficult now with the restrictions, 3 feet, whatever it is, contact tracing and things like that. They have to sit in a seating chart, but ideally it would not be a seating chart if it was a modern classroom or a self-pacing classroom. To my ideal standard, I would want them to sit wherever they were in the system of the unit, like whatever part they were on, they should be sitting with students who are doing that same thing and being able to work with them. And then I can sit with, I could decide where to go. I could decide that, oh, these kids are all over here and they're a couple lessons ahead. I'm going to send 2 of these guys over to this table where there's kids that are 3 lessons behind, struggling on the reading. So again, this is the ideal. This is what I want to get to. Yeah, just kids up and being. It's chaos. It's great organized chaos. So as you saw in the video, there are 3 parts to the modern classroom ideal, and that is blended instruction, where you're creating those videos and they can access them at any time of the day. As soon as you put them up, they can be on those videos. So you're going to see a lot of different ways of going about that. That they can rewatch them. They can watch them early. Then there's the self-paced structure where you're literally putting out maybe 5 lessons, maybe the entire unit at one time, and just letting kids move at their own pace. And you're tracking that progress publicly. And that was also, someone had written that public progress tracker. It's a scary idea, and it really is. And I will talk about how that worked for me and how frightened I was by it when I first threw it out there. And then the idea is it's standards-based mastery grading. Like if you are, and a lot of us are already kind of doing the standards-based curriculum grading, you just need to make sure you're grading them on the meaning of that standard. And you're creating little mastery checks. They could be little, they could be big unit things at the end that are showing the progress. They're making it through by these mastery-based checks that you do with them periodically. Yeah, and that's the 3 parts. So blended instruction, again, I told you it took me 7 times to create my first video. And now I'm getting better at it. It's becoming something that I actually enjoy doing it. I love it because I'm always thinking, okay, the kid in the back of the room who's asleep like I was, how am I going to make sure they're getting this concept? And that's what I think about every time. The kid in the back of the room who has only been in this country for 4 years and has some limited English knowledge, how am I going to make sure that they understand these concepts? So I'm always trying to do that. And when with a video instruction, you could do that, and you can ask your colleagues, if you're a kid in the back of the room falling asleep, or a kid that doesn't understand the language very well, are you understanding this? And it could be something that you really learn from as a teacher as well. And I find that I've learned from creating these instructional videos. The idea is that they are no longer than 6 minutes, because obviously we've seen how our kids, what happens is my students will literally watch it from start to finish. And I can't tell them enough, don't watch the video from start to finish, watch it, pause it, do what I'm asking you to do. So you have to really try to make breaks into the video. You can use different avenues to do that. I do mine simply on Screencast-O-Matic, but there's Edpuzzle where you can upload a video from whatever means you videotape it, and you could add questions in and things like that. I don't necessarily do that, but again, it's something that you can do to make sure that they're pausing and stopping and understanding, and that they're not watching it straight through. I always tell my students, it's not a movie, guys. This is not Spider-Man. You're not supposed to sit down with some popcorn and enjoy it. You're supposed to learn from it, and I need to see that learning happening on your actual document. So again, they want videos should be 2 to 6 minutes. And I've struggled with that as well, because there's a lot of content I want to get through, and sometimes you have to break that longer content into maybe 3 videos rather than one big one. And then when you're creating the videos, I have to have students do something. They can't just sit and watch my video the whole way through. They're not going to take from it because it's just like a lecture. They're going to start to tune out. I'm going to play a video that I created. I'm really big on, as an 8th grade teacher, creating writing, a format of writing, so that every time they write from now on, from 8th grade till they get to college, hopefully, they're able to write in a format that makes sense to them. They're able to do this style of writing. So I hit that really hard for everything that they do. So I will play this for you.
Hello, my amazing ELA 8 students. This is our first mastery check for Unit 7. In this mastery check, your objective is students will be able to write a constructed response paragraph that answers a prompt. You're going to use the poem that we've been working on for the last few days to do this, the Amanda Gorman poem. And yeah, I'm going to walk you through it. So if you watch this video, guys, you will be able to do this, no problem. All right, first thing, guys, step 1, when you get a constructed response, you have to read it, and then you have to underline the verbs. So you have to figure out, okay, what is this telling me to do? Where's the verbs like read, write, listen, think, list, run? It's not going to ask you to run anywhere, but you know what I'm saying. And then you're going to highlight what those verbs are telling you to do. I'm going to read the prompt for you, and I'm going to do the very first verb. Now, I'm going to give you a hint. There's 3 verbs in this thing. So you're trying to find 3 verbs to underline and 3 things to highlight that is based off of those verbs. So it says, discuss the overall theme of Amanda Gorman's The Hill We Climb and how it relates to the topic of being an upstander. Use 2 pieces of evidence from the text to support your claim. Give detailed connections between the evidence and your claim, as well as the world beyond the text. I'm going to do the very first verb for you. And the very first verb, guys, oh yeah, you know, it's discuss. I underline discuss. And what are we asking to discuss? We're being asked to discuss the theme of the poem and 2 things, guys. We're being asked to discuss the theme and how it relates to being an upstander. So, whoa, there's a lot to think about here.
Okay, I'm going to stop because this is absolutely uncomfortable listening to myself talk. So literally what I've tried to do is I'm walking students through this with the hopes that the more they do it, the less I have to do a video like this. So the next time they write a constructive response, they won't need, I will just say, read the prompt like you've been taught. Maybe I list what to do, but they have the visual here. And as you go through the video, I add, like, when they roll out a claim, what that looks like. I color code it. Again, I make the videos very user-friendly because, again, I want to make sure every kid, from the kid who is a high achiever to the kid who is learning English, can access this and take from it what they need to show mastery. Again, it's a little longer than 6 minutes. Like I could have probably separated this concept into 3 different videos or even 4 different videos, depending. I could say I was a little lazy and just wanted to get it done. But yeah, so kids are they're looking at basically 4 concepts here: reading the prompt, writing a claim, adding evidence, making connections. So I could have made a video for each one of those concepts, and had the kids, if they're struggling at one concept, just say, look at video 1. Video 1's going to teach you that. So you can break it down however you want. And as I'm, talking about this and learning from it, you learn what works best for you and your students as you go. And sometimes you got to make those mistakes to get it. But what I'm seeing is my students do watch it, they do pause it, and they see it. I can get a student to understand concepts of writing from this. And I might even put this very video up for the next time they write something. It's not the same topic, but I can say, watch the video for the Amanda Gorman poem, and that's going to help you with this one. So there's always access to that. And then if a kid doesn't get it, like writes me a response that is not, that doesn't meet the standard, I can say, go back and watch it again. If a kid is on an IEP and working with their special education teacher, I can tell the special education teacher, have them watch the video with them again. And then everybody knows. They don't have to be in my classroom. Everybody knows exactly what I expect from the kiddos. And it's worked. It's worked out really well. Okay, next.
Hello.
Sorry.
My
Oh,
amazing
God.
ELA.
No. All right. Then now we go to self-paced, guys. So you get them to learn the material through your videos, and then they go. And then what? Then it gets a little crazy. So one thing I have employed that the Modern Classrooms, when I did my summer program with them, is they want you to have a daily tracker, like an exit ticket. I give them this at the start of class. I ask them how they're feeling. Obviously, I want to make sure, so I can walk around and say, oh, she's having a bad day. I'm going to sit down with her a little bit today and figure out what's going on. It tells what lesson, they need to tell me what lesson they should be working on. There's an agenda that we have up for the week that I post at the front of the class. And I also post it on my Google Classroom, so they have access to it. So they know what they should be working on. But then they have to tell me what they're currently working on. So like this right here, this pink paper, you can see, they're feeling okay. This is just a sample. And they should be working on lesson 7.2, but maybe the student's a little behind. But by the end of class, hey, they're feeling a little bit better. They've caught up, and I'm able to walk around and see that. They hand that to me at the end of the period. And it's literally, I just check it. I might keep a couple to the side if I see that they're not feeling well or they're way behind. And again, I might have them color coded by class, so I can have a stack of pink classes might be my second period, yellow might be my fourth period, and then I'm able to grab and see what I need to go back to the next day. Then we have the progress tracker, and this is the thing that some people on the Jamboard with concerns about Modern Classroom and the self-pacing is a progress tracker that tells the entire class where kids are. I was like, I'm not doing that. It took me, so I did the summer program in like July, and I didn't implement the progress tracker until like November, because I'm like, I'm not doing that. I'm not doing that to kids. That's going to be horrible to them. I don't want kids to feel bad because they're behind. But I would listen to the podcast that Modern Classroom would put up about how the progress tracker is the essential. Like if you don't have knowledge of where kids are, and they don't have knowledge of where kids are, one, they can't self-advocate for themselves. They can't want to do better if they can't see that they're maybe a little bit behind. They have to see the progress that other people are making. They have to push themselves for that. And my whole thing is this is not tied to grades at all. Like a kid could be way ahead. They could be on lesson 9. It doesn't mean they're getting an A. It doesn't mean we don't know what they're getting. This is just what they're actually working on. That way kids can see, if I'm on lesson 5 and I see that my friend is on lesson 6, I'm going to go over to them and say, hey, could you just help me with this? And it has helped. It has made me kind of see, they do care. Like they care about their education. If someone had done this to me in a class, it would, one, make me uncomfortable, and two, make me work. It would make me see that people are paying attention. My teacher's paying attention. I need to be paying attention. My classmates are going to be paying attention. I want to work because I don't want to be the person behind. And as a teacher, you do that at your own discretion. You figure out like, oh, if a kid is really behind and they're still on lesson 4 and everybody's moved on to 8, you might work with that kid one-on-one, and you might physically move them ahead. You just say skip 5 and 6. Like we know where you're at. There's a few students where I know that they don't need as much structured help or don't need as much from the lessons that I do. They need me to help them with this one thing. And I just need to make sure that they get this next thing, and I might move them ahead because really I don't need them to do all the little intricacies that maybe other students might benefit from, because they're just trying to basically survive because it's hard for them. And with my support, I move them ahead to what I think I need to be able to get them to mastery of the grading. So again, you figure out what works for you in your own classroom, but I really did find the progress tracker. It's the one thing that scared me the most and has helped the most in making sure kids are doing what they should be doing, along with this like exit slip every day. Okay, I'm going to move on, and guys, we're going to have tons of questions. I'm sure people have questions. And we will answer all questions, and I will go back to slides and things like that at the end here, so we can make sure, because it's a lot. I know it's a lot. You also have access to this slideshow. Yeah, and I'm going to give you access to one of my units, so you can kind of see how I've done it. Again, not perfect, just done. So next thing is mastery-based learning. How do you check that a kid has made the progress that they're supposed to make and is learning the concepts, whether it's standards-based concepts or just the concepts that you have in your classroom? There's so many ways. So they assess a skill or a standard. They're not, I don't share my mastery checks. They cannot do a mastery check until they've shown me that they've completed the majority of the lessons. And this is where, if you go back to the progress tracker, like, let's say there's a mastery check between lesson 8 and 9. They have to show that they've done the majority of 6, 7, and 8. I have to be able to look at these lessons and say, okay, you've done enough to get to this mastery check that's after lesson 8. And again, this is where at your discretion, if you see that a kid is really struggling and you're sitting back and you're helping that kid every day, you decide maybe they don't need lesson 7 and maybe they don't really need lesson 8. I can give them the mastery check and have them do a couple of questions. And as long as I can see that they can do some of it, they can get the grade that they need to get. I don't want students sitting on a lesson that's 2 lessons behind, because that's what happens. That's why they stop working. So again, at your discretion, that's when you decide when the mastery check is best for the kids. Essentially, it's best after they've completed most of the lessons prior, whether that's 1 lesson, 2 lessons, 3 lessons prior. And then I share the mastery check with them, and that could be done in a Google form where it might be just 3 questions. It might literally be a Google form with 3, maybe multiple choice questions, 3 short answers, maybe 1 short answer. Again, at your discretion, whatever you think will show you that they've made progress in that. It can be a longer piece, like we had read the Amanda Gorman poem at the beginning of the class and talked about symbolism in that. And so I gave them a mastery check where they had to find evidence and talk about the symbolism of that piece. And that made me see, okay, you're able to pinpoint what symbols are in that, and you're able to talk about it. You've done it. Or just as soon as last week, I did a mastery check where I was like, I'm tired of reading. I'm tired of looking at Google Forms. I want them to talk to me. So I pulled them out one by one as they were working on a lesson that was the next lesson. I pulled them out and I asked them about Cesar Chavez, because they had just read something about Cesar Chavez. And I said, if you've mastered this, you're able to pinpoint something in the text about Cesar Chavez that you've learned about him. And you're able to talk about why we're learning about Cesar Chavez and how it all relates. So that literally, it was 1 question, and they were able to come out and just talk to me one by one. And I noticed they were they were scared. They were like, oh my God, I gotta make sure I know about Cesar Chavez. So I saw them like right before I would call them out, they were checking, they were writing notes and things, because they realized, oh, I can do this. Like if I just study this stuff, I can do this and do my best. And I would hear like kids who were struggling with the text to be like, hey, well, tell me about Cesar Chavez. But then they're learning. They come out and they're able to be like, well, yeah, I know a little bit about him, because they asked their friend right before. To me, that's not cheating. To me, that's the learning that is happening. And as long as they're able to come out and they're able to say that, they're not gonna, they're gonna take that authentic, like, oh, but you have learned about him. You've gotten to where I need you to get. The ideal is that feedback on these are given quickly. That's why the Google form is excellent. That's why the face-to-face is excellent, because I could say, you rocked it. Thanks a lot. Good job. Keep reading like that. And then with like something like this, where it's a little longer, notice I color code things, because I know what I'm looking for in this. They have to underline where they connect to it. So if you make it very specific, you can grade that stuff even while they're working on it. Like you can literally be grading it like as they're working, and get feedback back to them right away. So again, it's that idea that you're working, but you're working on the authentic stuff. You're not working on saying the same lesson 5 times a day. You're working on authentically seeing if they're learning, and it's kind of fun. It's new, but it's kind of fun. So I have shared with you guys my current unit and my Google Classroom. I am going to just show you, if you went into my file, it is all color coded. Yeah, this is the unit we're currently working on, with the idea, I give them lesson 7.2. This is the 7th unit. I give them the writing prompt, kind of like what the ISAT does. They get the writing prompt right at the start of their performance task so that they can, when they're reading, they know why they're reading. So I give them the writing prompt at the very start of the unit, the day 1 of the unit, they have to read it. And in this lesson, I tell them what to do. I tell them you got to read the prompt, underline the verbs. We do it all the time. And again, they learn this. So when I was watching them take the ISAT last week, I was like, I'm doing it. They're totally reading the prompt correctly. Yes. To me, that's something. So yeah, and so they know why they're doing the things they're doing, and then we just move on. So lessons can be like short lessons. They're watching a video here. They're doing a thing on symbolism here. This is the Amanda Gorman poem here. Again, it's color coded. The mastery check for the Amanda Gorman poem is here, and it's color coded. They do another lesson. Yeah, they do a vocab lesson. There's a mastery check on vocabulary here. There's a Jamboard thrown in there. You guys have access to all of this stuff. This number 14 right here was the Cesar Chavez. I told them, okay, I'm going to pull you out into the hallway and I'm going to ask you one of these 3 questions. And it was funny because I actually saw that I gave them a copy of this and gave them a copy of the rubric, so they knew exactly what I was expecting. Like, you're going to talk and you're going to get a 5 on this. This is how much I need from you. And they took notes on this. I was like, wow, they actually like they care. Because it's accessible, and it's weird, it's great, and it's cool to see. So yeah, you guys have access to this unit, and then I've shared my my Google Classroom with you so that you can see how it looks. So the most important thing they need to see is the weekly agenda. And this is last week's agenda, I believe. We had a fun day on Monday because they had just taken the ISAT. But so this week we watched the film The Hate U Give, and they were working on something with plot with that film throughout the entire week. They had the Cesar Chavez mastery check here as they were working on learning about plot here. So they know like this, and again, it's color coded. So they know this is going to be the red lesson. They'll go back to the document and it will be red on top. This lesson is purple. So again, they know it's one thing I could add is the name of the actual lesson here. Again, as I'm talking through it, I'm like, that could be something so the kids can see. But so they have that. But then if you look, this is literally lesson 1 was the intro videos, the prompt that I just showed you. They learn about reading poetry. This is the first source, which is the Amanda Gorman poem. I try to keep it really simple. They have a mastery check on the Amanda Gorman poem. I color code, lessons that they should do to get to mastery are in yellow. Mastery is in red, like they know it's a mastery check. They know it's going to go in the grade book. And the only thing that goes in the grade book for me are the mastery checks. So they know they got to do all these lessons. The mastery check's going to connect. And you can decide. It could be 2 lessons and a mastery check. It could be 1 lesson and a mastery check. You decide. Since I'm an English teacher and they're doing some videos and they're talking about some things, I add 4 lessons here depending. Again, they had a vocab assignment, did a mastery check. This is another writing assignment. Now this green is an Aspire lesson. So yellow are the lessons that they should be doing because those are the lessons that are going to get them the knowledge to take the mastery check. Aspire lessons are for kiddos, for everybody, but for kiddos who finish everything and they're like, I'm done with the 5 lessons you put up. What else do you have for me? An Aspire lesson might ask them to research something. This one specifically, because we're reading about upstanders, asked them to go to the library. We had a library day and I had them check out a book that had to do with upstanders and tell me what book it was. And that was the Aspire lesson for that one. Try to keep it simple, but knowing that they're going to be reading a book, that way I can say, okay, you have your book. Go ahead and read your book about upstanders and things like that. Another Aspire lesson here, they had, because they're going to be writing a narrative on being an upstander in society. So I'm having them research. They're going on here and they're researching these websites because they go over different issues that people might fight for, different human rights issues and social justice issues that people might fight for, and that they could be writing about. Now, I will eventually tell every kid to go back to this lesson at the end of the unit, right before they start writing, because if they're struggling to find an issue, it's already here. Guys, go to Aspire lesson number 2, and I'll literally say number 17, go to number 7 lesson, or number 17 on the Google Classroom, and there's some really cool websites there. And maybe they don't complete the lesson. I don't need them to, but maybe they check the websites out and again, it's all about mastery. They've gotten enough to be able to do the mastery check, which will be a writing assignment. So yeah, this is how it looks. The agenda is helpful because they can see in 1 week what they should be working on. And then it just goes down like this. Excellent. Okay. Now I'm going to have you guys, Jackie, let's have them get into breakout rooms. Jackie's going to walk you through the breakout rooms, and I want you guys to think about a current unit that you have, and I know you've got tons of questions because I would as well, and we are going to get to the questions. But I want you guys to think about a unit that you are currently teaching, and the idea that should do lessons are the lessons that will get them to take a mastery check and master it. Aspire to do are the lessons that maybe a kid finishes. What extra stuff could they do to really take that? Maybe they're a score 3, maybe they're a B student. They would be an A student if they did a couple of Aspire to do lessons. They don't have to do those lessons, but they'll make their writing, their learning, whatever, it could be a math problem that they've mastered, but then they take it into, well, how does this look in the real world? That could be an Aspire to do lesson. So I want you guys to think about a lesson or a unit that you have. And talk in your groups, your breakout rooms, just about, start throwing ideas out like, oh, I do a unit on this, and I think should be these 3 things, because the must do would be like this Google form, maybe a Socratic seminar, and maybe a final project or something at the end. And then what kind of Aspire to do things could you do at the end of that? Jackie knows how to do all the tech stuff.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. I'm excited for all of you to get a chance to learn with and from each other. So we're going to move into some breakout rooms. You'll have 10 minutes to talk, and then it will transport you magically back here to the whole group. So enjoy your conversations, and we'll see you soon. It looks like some of you are going to get to stay here with me. That's what I get to offer you.
Awesome.
All right. Paige, you have a friend with you too. How exciting.
The more the merrier, right?
So what are you all thinking about in terms of application and favorite units?
Jump in, Kimberly.
Oh, sorry. My computer shut down as it was like when she was talking about the must-dos and the should-dos. But I've seen the modern classroom and I really do like it. And someone explained like the should-dos, I think. I'm probably gonna mix the two up, but are like, if you have those students who do struggle to learn or they have a certain requirement, basically that's like the basic bare bones. And when I think about it with science, it's like I don't want them to be a scientist to know like all these details, but I want to know basically, these few little objectives that everybody should know. And so I really liked how they explained it. And I don't know if she explained it in this presentation. Like I said, my computer shut down. But anyway, so I really like that. And the spires are like, the spire to do are like for my go-getter students who are like more intrigued by it and they want to they're more curious about it. And so they can, go for it in those lessons right there. But I don't know, does she have any other tips in the thing? I wish I could have seen it.
I was really starting to think about, Rachel and I were talking, like this really works well in like a writing workshop model. And I can see a lot how that would correlate. But I just finished a opinion essay unit. And I see the must do is you must be able to write an opinion essay with all of these different features, right? The should do are all the little things that I'm actually making them do in my classroom, but like we're going to practice writing a couple different claims. We're going to practice finding reasoning and evidence. And like those are all the baby steps to get you to that final product. And I see that working really well in writing, like if you know some of those certain steps because you've done those processes before, like that's a direct. I think science is a little more difficult because you do have to get through, but maybe it's again the process of, do you have your hypothesis? Do you have, I don't know, confused on how that might work for science.
Yeah, well, yeah, if you guys ever listen to the modern, like she was talking about the Modern Classroom podcast, they are phenomenal. And I think there's even a free class you can kind of do it with them. You just don't get the mentors, like their summer conference. But they had a science teacher come on one time and she was explaining how she does the should do's, the aspires and the must, and then she says, then like the collaboration, sometimes we break out to do a lab and we break out and she said it's organized chaos, which I believe that, which I like I said, I think it's good because it really helps each student learn at their own pace, so, but I agree on that, where you brought up the topic of the should, like the writing, this is what everybody should do this, yeah, absolutely.
Can I throw a question out to folks who are more familiar with this than I am? I taught social studies for 10 years and, was thinking about the speaking and listening standards and pulling evidence from text and dialogue. And so I'm thinking about how this framework might work with specifically synchronous, like standards that are social inherently. And I bet that someone has thought of this and that there are ways to meet those standards, but have any of you kind of played with that in your classrooms or come across resources with regard to those more socially oriented standards.
You're talking about like not standards necessary for social studies. You're talking about just overall standards for.
Great question. So the ELA and lit standards in social studies that are essentially the same standards for ELA, but within the context of social studies texts.
Yeah, I haven't come across. I haven't. I'm sorry, but I know that this the one thing I taught assessment at a college level, and I love the modern day classroom because it's easy to, like the video was saying, it's easy to grab that evidence that at each kid what they have passed, and here's my evidence for it. She did this, he did that. So it's easy to target that. I just don't know the standards for that, unfortunately.
I have a question similar to Rose's in that our district is opening up a project-based difference-making mastery school. And so how would this framework for those socially constructed pieces, for those pieces that are we're trying to follow where the kids are wanting to go out in the community, how do we harness this? How could we harness this framework? Because we couldn't, I don't anticipate we could use videos year after year. I'm just trying to think through how that would look.
Well, so and like I said, I haven't gone through the summer conference, but I've done the free and read a lot and done the, like the podcast, they have great examples on there. And there's a gentleman on there. He's a music teacher and he does all his stuff is project based and he reuses his videos. He might update them every once in a while, but basically they tell you like in the videos, don't ever mention dates, don't ever mention huge events. Like he said, as much as you want to mention like, oh, the coronavirus, like, maybe 10 years down the road, this will be like just another one of those things, but I know they mentioned like how you should do those videos so you can reuse them over and over again. And with regards to the project base, they have that actually embedded. You can actually embed that into the into the modern day classroom. I haven't gone into that yet because I know this music teacher does use that for that's all he does for all his assessments is the project base. So it is possible with this one. I think you have to, with that pacing guide that she was saying, where you have all the students kind of pacing out, I think you have to have a time limit though, so every student does end at, by the end of the month, hopefully everybody's there, Yeah. I don't know if that answered any of your questions. I'm sorry, I'm no expert, but I did a lot of reading and I love modern day classrooms. Yeah.
No, that helps a lot. Thank you so much. And it makes me want to go explore the podcast a little bit more too.
It's great. Yeah, they bring on teachers from elementary to middle school to high school. Because like my concern too was like, how do you use this in elementary if they can't read or type and that's just introducing another tool to them. But basically they said like one elementary teacher that does this, she says, I make a game board and everything is done in like pictures versus words. I mean, it's just, they just do it differently. It's formatted differently. Yeah. Yeah.
So many great thoughts. I also appreciate that it sounds like Kimberly has lots of background and some experience that you can share with us, which is awesome because I don't have all of that. But thanks for the shout out about the modern day classroom podcast. That sounds really awesome. And I just love that we're all thinking about ways that we can transfer this to our own specific contexts and which pieces make sense in those contexts, right? Like it doesn't necessarily have to be all of the things. It could be like, we're going to take this one piece, the self-paced, or we're going to take this one advocacy piece and bring that into my classroom a step at a time.
Yeah, and they kind of mentioned that in the modern day classroom free thing that you can do. He says, don't tackle it all at one time, but he basically says this is kind of the principles that we do here that we know are backed research. They do work for students. They do work in every sort of classroom. I know he does have, Rose, I know you were asking about the ELLs, he does have a piece or articles or two in like the modern day classroom. So just kind of, I think if you pop on there, he has like, articles and blogs and things like that, but he does explain how he does it for those students too as well. Because I know that would be kind of a, helpful thing for them to learn at their own pace, as well,
Absolutely. Welcome back, everyone. I think Katie has just a couple more things as we close out our session together.
Yeah, let me just share. I love you. Here's all the resources. The website, free online course. So thank you, Leona, for putting that up. The mentorship program, and we had talked in my breakout room, like it's expensive, but you can get a lot from the website. You can get a lot from the free online course. And I found that the Facebook group is fantastic. So I think if you're interested in this at all, first and foremost, go join the Facebook group. I literally just posted something today because I'm stressing out about what I'm teaching next year. And I'm like, help. And I'm just begging for people to give me ideas. So I think you get a lot from that. And yeah, so other than that, I just have what am I doing? I have a slide, one final slide. And if you guys have questions, that's what I want to talk about now. And then if you do not, we can be done.
Yeah, I do have a question because I'm familiar with the modern day classroom. I haven't done the actual the mentorship summer sessions that they usually do. Hopefully someday down the road I'll do that. But they have that, you were talking about the pace board. What did you find successful that helped your students quite a bit? Did you have, because I've heard different suggestions where you could put the name or you can have the students choose their own emoji. Or what did you find so that way students aren't, I don't want to shame a student, if that makes sense.
Right.
Especially those students who are like, I don't even want to participate. I'll just be behind.
Right.
So what did you find successful in that one?
Currently, I am using where they have the little sticky note and it's their initials. And I have a different color for each class. And I kind of start to notice if a kid is, like I said, in the presentation, if a kid's getting behind, I might push them ahead. I might literally after class put their sticky on where they should be and have a conversation with that student and realize that maybe they're just struggling and need to move on from whatever they're working on because it's holding them back. So I do find that I haven't yet had a kid at least come to me feeling shamed. Yeah, so, and that's worked best for me. And I decided to do it that way because I started to do it virtually. I would, move them and then we had a little virtual tracker. But I really wanted it tangible. I wanted them to finish something and go, kids are getting up all the time and they're moving stuff over. And I'm like, cool, you finished, great, good. And when a kid is struggling with something and they move on, it's like, yes, you can see that progress and it's tangible. So that's what's worked with me so far. But I get it. It took me a long time to get here. And as far as shaming kids, no, I don't want to do that. And I try really hard to just be aware when a kid is starting to head that way.
So Katie, I'm seeing another question on the Jamboard. It says, in some of the ICN resources, we have learned that having advanced students help others is not always an appropriate way to differentiate. I'm wondering what the benefits of the progress tracker are, and other than having students approach other students for help.
Oh gosh. Oh, let's see. I feel that first off, the benefit of the progress tracker allows kids not to just get complacent in not doing their work. Because I think a lot of kids are just like, I don't want to do this. I was one of those kids, so I would have been pushed to do work because I wouldn't have wanted that. I wouldn't have if every kid in the class is moving along, I wouldn't have wanted to be the kid not doing it. But again, as a teacher now, I am aware that there's going to be kids who just fall behind. But for me, it is just the awareness of, okay, I see so-and-so is falling behind. I'm going to have a conversation with them. I'm going to physically move that progress tracker to where all the other kids are, because I don't want them to feel that. And again, I'm going to help them out. I'm going to work with them a little bit more. I'll have students work with them a little bit more. And nothing should, as far as my classroom, nothing is to the point where it's so difficult that they can't eventually get a little bit of it done to move on to the next thing. And then, yeah. And so, yeah, other than having students work with each other, that's the benefit. I think just kind of pushing them to have some accountability with their classmates.
Katie, thanks for sharing how that looks in your classroom. I'm also wondering about like the extension piece. So sometimes students are helping one another. Is there also a place in the modern classroom for extensions for advanced students?
Right. So yeah, that would be the Aspire lessons that I've been toying with. And again, this is new to me because I hadn't put them up for a bit because I was like, oh, I don't want kids, I don't want them to feel like they have to get to this and have to do more. But the Aspire lessons are like things that it's like real world stuff beyond what we already are asking them to do. It's taking it a step further into like, okay, now research this. Like for the end of this unit that we're going to do, I'm going to have like an Aspire lesson to be like, okay, create a made up nonprofit and just outline what that might look like on this sheet. Like, how could you help others using this? So again, something where they're thinking about it. They're using critical thinking. It's not painful. It's kind of fun. Yeah, nothing that would make them run away screaming like, I don't want to do any more of this stuff.
Awesome. And we have time for maybe one more question, Katie.
There's one on
do you implement hard deadlines or dates when units officially close?
Yes. So for the end of the unit, there is a hard deadline. It's usually a Socratic seminar that they have to get to. And then from there, they do a writing assignment. And those two are the hard, they're the hard deadlines at the end of the unit. Obviously, if we move on to the next unit, they all move on. Some kids might not finish, and we have a policy in Boise schools that they can reassess anything up until 2 weeks before the grading period ends. So if they end up doing it, I will go back and grade it. It's we've just moved on. But throughout the actual unit, there are no hard deadlines. It's just the pacing and moving on based on the tracker and what I put up every week. And there was a question about how to balance screen time with other types of activities. I am still learning how to do that. Being that the pandemic has brought us all to screens, I think next year what I'm going to do is do some where I print out the stuff and just don't have them on their screens. But sometimes they will be, like maybe the mastery checks will all be on the screens and the actual readings will be on actual documents. So we'll see. We'll play around with it.
Awesome. Thanks so much, Katie. And thank you all for being here. I love the robust conversation happening in the chat and so appreciate you, Katie, for facilitating and sharing the authority of your practice with us. So thanks so much. I wish we were like in a whole room so we could like give you a round of applause.
Thank you guys.
So I'm just doing that for you right now. And everyone, you have an opportunity to attend one more session today. So I hope that you have something awesome picked out. And thanks so much for being with us today. Have a wonderful rest of your weekend and your conference.
Thank you guys for coming.